Hello, welcome to IP Tech Tuesday, number 39, How to Unbox. We will start, unfortunately, as usual, with a moment of silence regarding what happened last October. We're going to talk today about boxes. We're going to talk today about boxes. And one of the problems is that when patent attorneys think about IP, a lot of patent attorneys think about patents, and they often think about patents regarding solving specific technical problems. Now, patents can be much more than that, but today we're going to talk about how to solve this problem, which is that we're stuck. And there are different forces which cause IP people to do this. IP people are usually people who are interested in technology. So they naturally think about technology and patents. It's easy to talk about technology because we know exactly what's happening and what's doing to what and so on. Patents look like technical documents. So again, we think about patents instead about other types of IP. And there are also push forces. Everybody, if you look at other patent attorneys, you look at VCs, you look at clients, they also focus on patents. They do due diligence and they ask, what patents do you have? And what's technological innovation? Everybody's talking about patents and technology all the time. And even the patent office and the courts, again, they look at patents as if they have some very strong tie-in with technology. But it's not only patents. Trade secrets, people also look at them as technologically oriented. Trademarks, people look at them as being pure marketing. Designs as, just ornamental. So each type of IP is in its own silo. And if you want to have some sort of integrative strategy which combines different types of IP, it's really difficult to think about it, even if you want to, and I really want to. So basically, we have this box, and we're stuck in it. So that's one problem, that the IP is really siloed in our minds. Second problem is IP communication. So IP is usually used to provide a service to the company. The company has a strategy, and we will file IP, which will help that strategy happen. What that means is that whoever is supposed to be using the IP, enjoying the service, you really need to have good communication with them. And it's two different types of communication. One is incoming. The patent attorney needs to understand what it is that the business needs. And outgoing, you have to be able to communicate IP issues and solutions to the decision makers. So what would be wonderful is if this communication could use the language and concerns of the decision makers. And if we're doing even better, the IP communication itself, we should be able to develop it using such language and not just translate our IP strategy into their language. And even nicer would be to use this type of communication to have iterative or collaborative creation together with the decision maker. And Dr. Ilan Ries likes calling it different languages. The decision maker is King Arthur and uses Arthur language, and the pan attorney is Merlin and he uses Merlin language. So it would be nice if Merlin used Arthur language. And the best thing that we could imagine is it's a process of building a model of what the business is doing or should be doing is integrated together with IP considerations so that as you evolve your business model, you can also easily take into account and suggest IP issues. So what I want to propose today is that we use existing business frameworks in order to break out of the IP silo. And a main example I'm going to use today is using the business model canvas, which was created by Alexander Osterwalder. And this business canvas, as you'll see in a minute, is intended to be used by the people founding the business in order to identify the critical components of their business model. What's more important for our discussion is that the canvas has 9 boxes. And what I'm going to show you is that when we relate to each one of these boxes, and for each one of these boxes, we ask, okay, what's happening with IP here? And in particular, IP vulnerabilities, opportunities, and goals, and the business vulnerabilities, opportunities, and goals, we naturally stop talking about in IP language, and we naturally are forced to go out of our box, which is, okay, what did you invent and how can we protect it? Now, this business model canvas is not the way to do it, and I will show you, but I think it is a great way to break out of the basic problem, which is, what does this company have except for some really cool technology that we can write incredible patents for? So here's a business model canvas. If you haven't seen it, please follow the link and look at it. And just notice the 9 boxes. And I asked ChatGPT to explain what each box means. So this box over here is customer segments, which tells you who the business wants to serve. Value proposition means what it is the business does that creates value for one of these specific segments. Channels is how does the company communicate with and reach the customers. Customer relationship, it describes what kind of relationships you have. Revenue stream is how do you get some money. Key resources are what are the important assets required. Key activities are what does the company need to do. Key partnerships is who needs to work together with you. And cost structure explains how much money each thing's cost and how it all works together. Now, I'm sure you noticed none of these things say technology. Perhaps under key resources, an important asset is your unique technology. But you can see that the company, or just the business model of the company, is a lot more than just that particular technology. Now, before we go any further, even if you only file patents on technology, seeing the business model canvas allows you to answer the following question. How is the patent that I'm writing on this technology going to have an impact on the company? Okay, so that's a basic question you can ask, but we're going to do much more than that. So I invented a business. It's a barbershop. You walk into the barbershop and artificial intelligence tells you exactly what kind of haircut you need to have. And there's also an automated system that as the barber is giving you feedback, it tells the barber what to do, what to change, and so on. And let's assume that our goal is franchising. Okay, so we build one, and then anybody who wants to have a barbershop like that can copy. Why would we want to do franchising? Because it's really difficult to justify developing this technology for your barbershop. How many people can come to your barbershop and how much can they pay? By franchising, we can spread the cost. So let's fill in the business model canvas, or actually, I just asked ChatGPT to do it. So here's a business model canvas filled out by ChatGPT. If any of you are wondering, I asked it to fill it out and to generate HTML code, which will draw this drawing. And then when you copy it into a text file and tell it to show it in Chrome, this is what you get. Okay, just in case some of you are wondering. And I in particular asked it to focus only on one customer segment and only one channel. And you can see the different parts, the key partners or people that make barber tools. One of our key resources is AI technology, another one is skilled barbers. Here's what things cost. Here's our value proposition. You get better haircuts, the barber's more precise, unique experience, and so on. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to define an overlay which lays on top of the business model and where we can put IP issues. And I want to suggest 4 different layers in the overlay. One is IP support, meaning it says something in the box and we can use IP to help solve the challenges that are in the box. Vulnerabilities related to IP. We can have something in the box which has a weakness due to IP consideration. Maybe our IP, maybe IP of the competitors, maybe we published and we can't get protection, not important. Next is where IP provides opportunity to grow. Okay, the business model canvas is a snapshot, but you want the company to grow. And last is an overlay for IP people, which talks about considerations that you need to know about getting the IP that you want to get. So if you think about it, each overlay will have 9 boxes in it. And in each box, we're going to talk about 2 things. One is, what is the problem or opportunities that the IP relates to? And the second item is, what specific IP could be helpful? And really less important, whether that IP actually exists or not. And I'm not going to do the entire business model canvas, and I'm not even going to do all of the questions. I'm just choosing a box. I did it for 3 boxes. And what I want you to notice as I'm talking is how I'm going to talk about IP, but it's not going to be tied to technology. It's going to be tied to some component of the business model that maybe IP can help. So we have a customer segment called tech-savvy individuals. That was in the upper right corner of the business model canvas. And in the business model canvas, they recommend the following questions. Who are we creating value for? Who are our most important customers? And he gives different examples. It can be mass market, niche, segmented, and so on. So I said 4 layers. Layer number 1, support. If we have a customer, we have to be able to answer the question, which features are must for this market? Why do we need to know the answer to that question? Because we want to protect these features. So what features are must for tech-savvy individuals? We also need to do trademarks, okay? We have a market, we have customers, do marketing. So what trademarks are the right trademarks to use? Not patents. How do we segment or target these individuals? Do we have any unique tools? Are we using just standard stuff or using unique stuff? So that's in the support layer. Now there's IP vulnerability. Somebody can steal our market. And let me explain. We create the market. Until today, there was no market of individuals who want to get an AI recommended haircut. We're going to spend a lot of money. We're going to build that market. We're going to give them the haircuts. People are all going to say, we want to get this AI haircut. And after we do that, some competitor will say, oh, I love it. There's a market. Let's steal that market. Maybe they'll offer a better experience. Maybe they'll charge less money. Maybe they'll steal our franchise. It doesn't matter. The market is something of value that was created, and it's completely intangible. Okay, it's a positioning in people's minds, and IP should be able to protect us. Growth. How do we build our trademark and our brand in a way that we can extend to other segments, like mothers with 3-year-old kids? Okay, and maybe it can give them haircuts like Mickey Mouse or Giraffe. So we already know that we're going to want to extend to other segments. So when we're planning our trademarks, we have to plan them in a way which will allow them to change. And of course, same thing for patents, but I'm not talking only about patents. And there's a direct IP issue. If I have a client list, I don't want anybody to steal that client list. So I have to make sure that that client list is kept secret. Okay, so it's an IP operations issue of how do I keep my trade secrets secret. In red, I suggested possible answers that would be put in the overlay. What features are a must? Social media-based uniqueness. In other words, I think that these customers, what they really need to have is a feeling that nobody else has a haircut just like this. So one of the things we're going to do, we're going to invent and protect this calculator, which says how unique is your haircut. And that will make people want to use our system, because if they go to a different barbershop, they're not going to be unique. Trademarks, I'm going to have to design a family. In addition, I want to have some sort of timeless yet unique hairstyles. You notice I didn't actually write the trademark yet. I'm just giving instructions for building the IP. It's a wish list. I might not be able to do it. Do we have any unique tools for targeting or segmentation? Yes. We have a social media app that people can send images to. When they send the image, I can see what haircuts people have, what haircuts people want, where the trends are going, and then I know who to contact. Vulnerabilities. If I have patents and critical features needed for the market and critical niches, it'll be much more difficult for somebody to steal my market. I also am suggesting doing marketing with continuous improvement, and I keep on filing patents on these continuous improvements. So the minute I have version 1, version 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and I keep on filing protection for it, so that one of my selling points is that we're always getting better and we're always protecting it, so you can't copy it. Growth. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to file trademarks for the other segments early, rather than only when we start doing them. And the marketing will also include other segments in it and collect data, which perhaps strictly speaking is not an IP activity, except that it's being used in order to build my brand, and the brand is an intangible asset which we want to protect with IP. And the client list, we have to define how secrecy is controlled in the company. Okay, this is one box. Here's another box, key partners. And I chose, there were 4 partners, so I chose barber tool manufacturers and fashion and beauty influencers. So in order to support them being our key partners, I want IP which attracts them to work with us and or locks them in so they can't work with somebody else. Vulnerabilities, a supplier could help a competitor with, of course, information which is key. Or worse, the critical component could actually belong to one of these partners. And if they tell me they're not giving it anymore, it's going to be bad. How do I grow? I can use a licensing scheme to encourage more people to come and adapt. And the basic IP operation issue is all of these partners need to have contracts, and all of these contracts have IP clauses. I'm not going to show you potential answers. And here's another box, revenue streams. So in our filled out canvas, it was service fees and franchise fees and royalties. Well, in order to get money, we have to have IP, at least in my perspective, and the value that customers are paying for. It's not the only way of doing it, of course. Vulnerability, capping. Mind you, capping is when somebody gets a patent that I have to practice the patent in order to do my business. And then part of the money goes to other people instead of to me. Another vulnerability, people can perhaps copy the concept without actually franchising. They won't use the logos, they'll use different software and so on. How do I grow? I'm going to want to file IP on insights that I get from how people are paying. I see what people are paying for, how often they're paying for, a lot of valuable insights there, and I'm going to want to protect it using IP. And an IP issue, everything that I said might sound suspiciously like a business method patent. So from an IP perspective, I want to make sure that it will not sound like a business method patent. So again, I didn't show you all the boxes. I didn't show you all the questions. I didn't show you all the answers. That's for when you have an actual case to do. I want you to notice something about the IP, which will especially come out when you do this type of exercise. Sometimes you say, what's special about me is that I'm first. Maybe it's a simple idea, but I'm the first one who's doing it. So it focuses our attention on getting IP on simple ideas, maybe I should have said trivial ideas, whose value comes from them being novel and unique if you can do it. Some IP relates to non-trivial implementation. You know, in AI, it knows how to look at your hair and do A, B, C, D. That's non-trivial. We have some IP which is relevant only to one box, but some IP is also relevant to other boxes, like protecting the critical features that a customer wants is relevant to several different boxes. And the business model canvas doesn't really support it, but there's relationship between the boxes. And if you're able to lay it out, we definitely want to get IP that's on or inspired by the flow between the boxes. The IP is not indexed by technology. Usually when you see patents, they tell you what each patent is about or what family it belongs to. This family is about AI image processing, and this family is about generating guidance to barbers. So here the IP is indexed by business consideration. Here it's much easier to tie these IP issues to particular business functions or units. And of course, you can zoom in and talk about it, and we'll see that in a minute. And going back to what I said at the beginning, each one of these boxes, and we have 9 of them, give me a different way of asking the question, what does IP have to do with my company? Okay, each one of these boxes is a different way of looking at it. So we have 9 different ways of looking at it, and none of them is what's cool about this technology. So if I look at it, what kind of insights can I get? Just by looking at this filled out business model canvas on which I put my IP overlays. So one thing is, we can simply see the relationship between where the founder thinks he has a competitive advantage and where the IP is. We can see in general which parts of the company are overserved or underserved by IP. We can see where we have IP-related vulnerabilities, because that has nothing to do with what we got patents on. We see together in one place IP, which is not patents. If we build 2 different business model canvases for different potential models, we can compare the 2 of them with respect to IP. And most important is thinking about IP, we see how it affects the business. I just wanted to say a different way of looking at it. I don't know if you're familiar with the SWOT, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. We can analyze the IP for each one of these boxes using these 4 things. Are we strong in IP? Are we weak in IP? What IP opportunities do we have? And what IP threats do we have? But I said at the beginning, it's not perfect. Here's a short list of major IP issues which I don't think the business model canvas helps you get out. Collaborations. I'm not talking about your key partners. I'm talking about collaborations later on and so on. Transactions, investments, other strategies. You only see 1 here. How IP works together with other strategies. Okay, let's say you have regulation is a very important part of your business strategy. There's no way to easily show it. And of course, if you have specific events that you're looking forward to, like a campaign against a particular competitor, there's no way of showing it. The canvas is static. Usually when you interact with other players in the real world, they change, you change. In general, you can't relate to change in the world, not even technological R&D. There's no timeline. Okay, it's just a snapshot. And it's only one. There's no alternatives. You can't say, I'll do either this or that. And very important, information is the lifeblood of the company. And IP is very important for controlling, or let's use the word protecting, information. And there's no real way to see the information flow on the business model canvas. And last but not least, I'm giving you an IP view which is coherent regarding the company goals. If you look at the company, you understand how all the pieces of IP work together with the company. But what you don't see is how the different pieces of the IP work together with each other. It's a weakness. Okay, when you have a strategy, you want it to be a coherent strategy. I promised you before that you could do zoom in. So one of the zoom ins developed by the creators of the business model canvas is called a value proposition canvas. And they take these squares and they map them over here. And now they're asking the question, what is the product market fit? On the left, we have the market. On the right, we have the product, or maybe I have it backwards. Okay, pain relief. And the question is, how do the 2 of them match together? I'm sorry, the product is on the left and the market is on the right. And we can apply exactly what I told you about unboxing here too as well. So let's take a look. Let's say I'm analyzing this value proposition canvas, and I can ask, how much IP do I have on game creators? How much IP do I have on the customer jobs? How much IP do I have on our products? And here's a question. I mean, I'm not giving you all of the questions one could ask. What is the balance between providing pain relief and gain creation? Okay, pain relief means that something bothers a client and it bothers them less. Gain creation means the client can do more than he could do before. So I can ask how much of our IP is about pain relief versus gain creation. There's no correct answer for the ratio between them, but it does explain how we're trying to protect. How many alternative ways of providing the same benefit? Okay, so we have pain relief, and maybe there's 5 different ways of providing pain relief. We, the client, is only doing one of them. If there are 5, it's a big IP problem, because then how do we prevent a competitor from doing one of the other 4? Not likely we get IP on all of them. Here, before we talked about solution, but now we can ask, if we look at this list of customer jobs, and we can ask, can we block the application of a solution to a particular need, okay? I'm not saying let's get a patent on our box. I want to get a patent on using our box to make the client feel that he has a cool haircut, okay? One of the customer jobs, one of his jobs to be done is after he pays us $100 a haircut to walk out saying, I have a cool haircut, okay? So there are lots of different ways of making him feel that way, but we have a particular way of applying our technology to that use. And if we get protection on that, that might be valuable protection. Here's a list of jobs to be done, and we can ask, do we have freedom to operate for all the jobs to be done? If we don't have freedom to operate, then maybe we can't make an offering. Maybe we don't have freedom to operate on an important job to be done, which is it's a haircut should look nice both immediately and a week later. Somebody has some IP on that. And if the client requires it, we won't be able to give people haircuts. By listing the jobs to be done, we can ask that question. And what's nice about this canvas is that we can apply it more easily to a competitor. Building the entire business model canvas for a competitor, especially one that doesn't exist, is usually more difficult. But the value proposition, being a zoom in, I think is much easier. So, for example, the customer has a pain. Can we use IP in order to intensify the pain of the customer if they don't use our product? It's not just that we do pain relief, we cause increase in pain, and it makes it more difficult for the competitor to answer that. Or the other way around. We have a competitor, we want to copy his features of pain relief, and the question is, which ones can we copy? And if we can't, what are the IP issues for designing around? So I gave you business model canvas, and I think the creation of the business model canvas caused lots of other people to create canvases. And here's another canvas. It's called the Platform Navigator Canvas. And if you know, platforms are tools that have a networking effect. Usually it's like a market, and you have suppliers and you have customers, and they meet on your platform. An example is perhaps Amazon Marketplace. Some people sell, some people buy, and Amazon makes money. Okay, so they too have a canvas. And as it says here in the quote, I think it's a Bosch IoT lab, it can be used to capture the platform idea in a clear and structured manner. So now we have 5 boxes or 6 boxes, and each one of these boxes has IP issues, okay? How are you going to grow? Well, there's obvious IP issues. You don't want to infringe somebody's patent, or you want to not get caught while you're infringing it. You want to interfere with your competitors growing, okay? And I'm not going to go through the questions for each one, but it's just no time. But you can imagine that each one of these boxes has its own generic IP issues, and for any particular business, specific IP issues. And you can do it exactly like what I described before. And here's a very old, not quite canvas, Porter's 5-force framework. And it's a classic tool for analyzing the operating environment of a competition of a business. And let's just look at one of them, bargaining power of suppliers. You're in the middle somewhere. If there's only one supplier, the supplier can tell you, please give me 50% of your profit. And how does the supplier maintain this uniqueness and this bargaining power? Sometimes using IP, sometimes using technology, sometimes using market power. If he's doing it using IP, can we find a way to design around the IP? Now, this question that I'm asking comes because we're analyzing the company from an IP perspective using the 5 forces framework. Obviously, threat of new entrants, we want IP, which will prevent them from coming in. Threat of substitutes is a double threat. We want to prevent the substitutes from existing, and we want to prevent them being usable to replace what we're doing. So we want to block our own customers from using a substitute. My point is that here's a framework. Once we have a framework using business language, we can start asking at each one of these boxes and each one of these lines, what are the IP issues? And when we're done, we can present that information using this standard business framework. Now, I have a warning before we finish. These frameworks only show a snapshot. So if anybody knows something that doesn't, please share with me. The business model canvas does not show the company's strategy, okay? It shows the company structure, the model. It would be nice to align our IP with a strategy and not just with a business model. But after I gave you all of these warnings and caveats and so on, I think using these frameworks as a starting point for analyzing the IP situation of a company is great. You don't end there, but you definitely start there. So as a take home, I think that if you take any type of canvas or business framework and apply this methodology, just by looking at these boxes and asking what question is relevant to the box, you break out of your silo. But there's many issues, questions that you have to ask in addition. So here's just an example. You know, I kept on saying we do this, we do that. Very simple flowchart. First, you identify what IP issues each section naturally has. Then you identify what IP issues that are relevant to your company, of course, are ignored by the framework. Then you fill in the overlays, you know, the customer already filled in the content, or you show it to the founder and talk about it. And if everything is wonderful, the company updates the business model canvas periodically, maybe in the quarterly strategy meeting. And then you can do alignment. You say, oh, this changed, these IP issues went away, these new IP issues came in. Let's align our IP position to match it. Okay, so imagine the following situation. You have a company called Clean Shield, and they have glass that repels water, dirt, and other stuff. And they want to license this technology to glass manufacturers. And these glass manufacturers are OEMs for car manufacturers. And I think you're already starting to see the problem. And the problem is that OEMs are commodities. And when you're licensing, you have even less power. So imagine if you're filling out the business model, how you would do it differently in order to take into account these particular problems that you have. So first you have this question, and okay, we look at the business model canvas, and we know that our key partner is an OEM, but we know that there's an even further key partner hiding somewhere. And the value proposition that you're selling to your OEM is that they can get premium prices for the glass. And the question is, how do you make sure we get premium prices? How do we make sure that our OEM continues working with us, or that the parent company, the car manufacturer, continues working with our OEM? Now, there's IP answers to all of these questions, but the goal is to ask them, and we're using the business model canvas to do that. Okay, well, thank you for listening, and I am stopping the recording.